Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi, this being a show where I talk about shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Vampire Diaries, the originals, and Grimm. Starting off with this episode of Vampire Diaries, mainly, the episode dealt with Damon trying to get Steph and his body back. He even struck a deal with the vampire. I forgot what his actual name is, like Ambrose or something like that. Essentially give him Raina because he's like, he doesn't want to deal with Raina anymore. It's like Raina traveled, like, followed him all around and finally got him to where he was. Finally put him where he was inside a stone. So he wants Raina dead. And in exchange, he'll transfer his soul over into another body. Basically, he fed a kid his blood and killed him, so that he'd come back into as a vampire because he's like, I can transfer my soul into a transitioning vampire and we're golden, you can have your brother's body back. Which, interestingly enough, we find more about him. He honestly doesn't like the taste of blood, but he does enjoy the fact of just being able to make the kids kill themselves. So it's like, I really don't understand his, reasoning for what he does, but it's just like, he's like, oh, I just hate these, little pampered, essentially, he's like, these little pampered assholes, I hate them so much, essentially. He's a lot more calm and cool and collected about it, and that's what makes it even creepier, is how calm he is about him. But, that didn't work out for Damon, trying to get Raina, because Enzo ended up kidnapping her, because we end up finding out what this whole situation with Bonnie is. Essentially, Bonnie's been hunted by the Armory. They want her for, what we end up finding out is to unlock some kind of door that's sealed away at the bottom of the Armory's base, but it can only be opened by a Bennett witch, so that's why they want her. But basically, she's been taking those pills to hide herself so they can't use a locator spell to find her, and basically repeatedly eating those because, we saw what it did to Mary Louise, and he saw what it did to Mary Louise and found out, what that does to people, and it's like, he wanted to trade Raina to them because he wanted a cure. But Raina said there's no cure. Apparently it's a mixture. They don't say it's a mixture of that plant, but I can only assume it is. That plant, that kills witches, is that apparently it's combined with her blood. Or is it just simply her blood? Because I was under the impression it was combined with that plant, too. So maybe that's the case. Because initially I thought it was just the plant. Maybe, yeah, because it was never mentioned that it was mixed with her blood. So this is our first time finding out that it was mixed with her blood. But it's like, repeated dosage of it is going to kill her. But because Damon couldn't get Raina, that dude massacred everyone in that school, that sorority house, and it's like crazy. Fraternity house, sorry. But it's like, that was just like a bloodbath. I kind of skipping over the fact is we also had Damon and Rick kind of teaming up again. It was kind of very interesting. They seem to kind of work together again. I love how Damon kind of guilts Alark into it too. He's like, yeah, you don't want Stefan to die because let's not forget, Caroline might not forgive you if she finds out you just let Stefan die. It's just like, I love that he guilted him into it. Really, he wanted to use this opportunity to get close to Rick. Because, it's been the 3 years, and, Rick is hands down his best friend, so it's like, one of his best friends, so he wanted to kind of fix things. Sadly, it didn't work out that way because, Rick is like, a lot's changed in the 3 years. You were a selfish jerk. You left us behind. We moved on without you. Don't expect that you'll be able to just kind of pick up right where we left off. Because he essentially even told Damon, he's like, I don't want to go back to where we were. I'm good life. I'm living a good life. I'm happy. And I don't need you back in my life. Like, we can't, I don't know. Whether or not they'll ever be able to just be friends again, I don't know. I don't know if he's saying, like, we can never be friends again, or just, at least we can never go back to what we were, He had a just normal, stable life. Yes, he knows how to defend himself to make sure his family's, not being attacked by the supernatural, but overall, he's lived a pretty normal life. He's like, it's going to be a small wedding, him and Caroline, going to invite their friends, and Damon's like, I thought I was your only friend. He's like, I've made other friends. It's kind of sad because when you actually break it down, other than their group, Alark never really had any outside friends. Damon was the only person in the group he was closest with. He got close with everyone, but particularly Damon is the only the closest friend he had, and outside of that group of everyone that, we know in the show, we never really got to look and see, what happened. And side note, something that just randomly popped in my head just now. Where the hell is Jeremy? We haven't seen jack squat of Jeremy since, Yeah, wasn't that like the end of last season when they kind of said their goodbyes to Elena? Like we haven't seen him since then. I don't think they ever showed him in the flash forwards, did they? I mean, we've seen Tyler. We know what. Well, we got a little look at what Tyler was in like that 3-year period, like when we were kind of getting into flash forwards. But I don't remember seeing anything of Jeremy. Maybe we did, and I'm just not remembering it. But whatever the case may be. Another thing is they were finally able to get Stefan back in his body, but, while she was kind of inside of her head, because she was willing to sacrifice herself, but it ends up bringing up a very interesting conversation of, like, because, whether he'll admit it or not, Stefan was still holding on to Caroline, and Valerie's like, you don't love me as much as I love you, that basically me sacrificing myself for you, you didn't want me to do that, because not just, it's obviously you care about me, but it's also because you would feel guilty that I sacrificed myself for you when you didn't feel as strongly about me as I do for you. And it's kind of sad, because it's like, no matter what he says, like to me, I always looked at that situation as sad, because she had legitimately loved him. It's like, honestly, things could have been different if she had, if the whole, what's his face hadn't, killed her and her baby. Her and Stefan could be, they could have led normal lives, had a family, but, circumstances happened. She became a vampire / witch, and Stefan ended up becoming a vampire. It's just like, and truth be told is, so much time passed and his feelings changed, especially, meeting Caroline. Because, truth be told is, like, if it weren't for their... Because even she knew on some level, she didn't want to admit it, but the only reason why they were together is because Stefan didn't want to, like... Multiple things. Stefan didn't want to be around her because, for one, the scar, but also because it meant, being around her in the lark, and he saw how much she wanted that family life. So, I don't know, man. It's sad, like, that it ended like that, because it's so, like, you could see how much she cared for him, but they said their goodbyes. An interesting thing is, apparently we find out Alex, the head of the armory, has a sister. Basically, the place Bonnie is, which, interestingly enough, she's in North Carolina. So I know if you don't know anything about me, I'm living in North Carolina, so it's like, oh, Asheville, yay. I know of Asheville. I don't think I've ever been there before. Maybe I have. I don't know. I think I've probably passed through it once or twice. I mean, well, more than once or twice throughout my life. Anyway, it's a stupid thing. I know I don't know. It's just one of those weird things. It's like when North Carolina pops up in TV shows, I'm like, hey, not necessarily like I got pride for a state. I don't know. I'm probably not going to keep any of this, and I'll probably just cut it out. But the whole, interestingly enough, like basically Alex had been drugging her sister, like keeping her kind of crazy and locked up there. And basically, she's the one that told Bonnie about the vault and everything. I was so under the impression that the whole thing was a trap. I was like, it's a trap. She's trying to wait till you're vulnerable, and then she's going to turn you over to Alex. It's like, oh no, she's not. She legitimately, like, tries to kill Bonnie, actually, because she's like, she doesn't want to take the chance that Bonnie lets whatever is in that, like, behind that door out, because she didn't even let Bonnie know what it was. She broke some glass from that mirror and tried to kill her. That was crazy. And, Enzo came and explained to Bonnie, like, about pills. And then, Damon shows up and tries to apologize, but Bonnie slams the door in his face. It'd be kind of interesting to see, Damon's going to try and do everything he can to, because apparently, like, it hit her harder than you would think it did. It's because, to me, I love that relationship, that it developed the way it did. Because Bonnie and Damon just didn't care for each other until season 6. Wasn't that season 6? Yeah, season 6, when they were trapped in that other world. It's like, other than that, they never really... No, that wasn't season 6, was it? No, that was season 7, right? I think so. Yeah, that was part of season 7. But, well, the 6/7, but they ended up, bonding, and it's interesting to see that relationship, like they disliked each other, but until they spent all that time together in 1992 for those, like, 4 months, they bonded, it became best friends, and it's so, like, she got so attached to Damon that she just felt like he abandoned her, everyone felt like he abandoned them, And it's just like, I kind of feel bad for Damon. It's like he tried to do the right thing. He tried to leave so he wouldn't cause more problems, but it's like him leaving ended up causing more problems than he'd ever, could hope. Because, I mean, it's kind of sad when you think about it. Probably like, if he did sleep the entire time, not just 3 years, but if he slept that entire time and, finally woke up with Elena, it's like, what really would be left for him? Because, I mean, I doubt Stefan would really be talking to him after all that time. I think he's actually lucky he got woken up after 3 years, because I feel like at least with this 3 years there's been a lot of time, but not as much time as it could have been, so he has a chance to repair everything. I mean, he's trying. I think it'd be kind of interesting to see, like, seeing him trying to repair that relationship, because I feel like, I don't know, this is me because I just enjoy conflict. I think it's very interesting. What if, like, Damon, and Bonnie's relationship kind of interferes with hers and Enzo's relationship? It's not like they have that type of, like, an intimate relationship. It's just, they're friends. But what if his relationship with Bonnie starts interfering with theirs and it kind of causes a bigger rift? I don't know. I think that'd be interesting. But I am curious to see, like, how he'll handle everything, like Damon is trying to pick up the pieces of his life, but it's like after so much time has passed, it's not going to be easy. Rick is not quick to like help him, and like it's like kind of keeping his distance. It's like, so I'm pretty sure the same thing can be said about a lot of people in his life. I don't know. I feel like out of anyone, maybe Caroline might be. I don't know. Caroline might blame him for Stefan not being around, so. She's like, it might be like, oh, it's because of you that Stefan was in the situation he was in, ended up breaking my heart and leaving and never coming back. So, I don't know. Now, moving on to this week's episode of the originals, where we have Klaus going after Lucian and just getting his ass handed to him. It was, he used that knife that basically immobilizes original. It can't kill them, but it stabs them and they're just like immobilized. He ends up chaining him up, and essentially he went off to deal with Elijah while Aurora kind of kept watch over him. I thought I really loved how we got to look at a situation of like, him trying to manipulate Aurora. It's just bringing up, it's like, oh yeah, I still have my feelings for you. You still have your feelings for me. That flame that burns between us. She kind of wasn't buying it though, but then he eventually went to kind of tearing her down a little bit. He even brings up the fact is like, because I really like how calculated Klaus is, because he told her, like, he brought up the whole Lucian thing. He's like, you don't even care about Lucian. She's like, poor him. He's in love with me, and I don't feel the same way. I'm just using him to get my brother back, because the plan is to kill him or, to kill Elijah if they can't find out where Tristan is and get him back. Kill Elijah, because at least that way his brother's pain won't be continuous. They end up Lucian actually had a camera there, and then he replayed that, during in the episode. And then Klaus, after like Aurora walked away, he turns because he knows exactly where the camera is. He had a little smirk across his face. It's like, you smart bastard, trying to cause a rift between Lucian and Aurora, which kind of backfires because at the end of the episode he ends up biting Cammy. I mean, mainly I feel like that was him getting back at Klaus for that. I did like that situation of them trying to when they rescued Klaus, because that took a lot for Cammy, because Cammy fears Aurora a little bit, because it's like, well, for one, Cammy's not nearly as strong as Aurora. Aurora's got a good couple centuries on her, obviously, but it's also because Aurora's the woman that made her what she is. I mean, she basically, it's the reason she's a vampire now. So not only is she a powerful vampire, but it's also because she holds some psychological power over Cammy. And I was almost scared out of my mind when she was basically pushing Cammy against the boundary. Basically, you see what, I don't think that's ever come up too often in the show, like what actually does happen to a vampire when they cross the threshold without being welcomed into somebody's like home. And basically Cammy was bleeding like from her face and everything. It's like, holy crap, dude. And like Klaus is up there, like almost, you can see tears in his eye. He's begging Aurora to stop. But luckily, Cammy and Haley were able to take her down. It's just like, love that I love that teamwork together. And because because I love how Haley, tries to set Klaus right, because Klaus is like, because Klaus wanted to, check up on her, after he found out Aurora, was away, that she had gotten away, and she'd even like, I'm sorry, I heard about Finn, and he brought up the fact that he's like, he's like, she's like, I could let you in. He's like, no, don't let me. I just want to make sure you're okay. I'm sure you'll probably be happier if I'm not here. Because, he's like, you've made your feelings for me pretty clear because, Cammy lied. Because, she had that conversation with Vincent where Vincent was like, why'd you lie to Klaus about him? Not feeling the same way about him. Haley ended up bringing it up and ended up, it's just like, how Cammy feels about you. She can say whatever she wants, but she still cares for you. It doesn't change how she's felt about you. And at that moment, it kind of turns, and you see Elijah kind of looking at Haley. So I guess what is being said about them could be said the same thing about them. Like I said, it would have been interesting if, things led to Haley and Klaus getting together. But it's like, no, like, they both already in love with someone else. Haley's in love with Elijah, and Klaus is in love with Cammy. He's kind of been smitten with her since like the first, like way back in season 1 when he like was trying to use her, to keep an eye on Marcel. Like he even had a thing for her. He's like, because remember he compelled her to forget a lot of stuff, like compel her to forget that he was using her, and he was like, if we had met under different circumstances, I would have liked to kind of essentially date you. That's kind of what happened. Like it was like a legitimate thing. Like he fell for her almost instantly. Another thing that went down in this episode was Freya ended up making that spell, which sadly didn't work. I did like that she said like basically she was making his blood boil at the same time, and that was something she added to the spell, which sadly it didn't work. Because freaking ancestors have his back, and it was crazy. Like, the room was filled with Strix, and Lucian was able to take them all down. We also had the I keep forgetting the kid's name. He's the son of the witch that Davina had Haley kill, her and her other people. Back when she was manipulating them. Saying that she could keep them in their human forms, with a candle. They basically did that. It's basically him. Essentially, he's working with the ancestors, and they're going, like I said, Lucian is a weapon. They're going to have him kill the Michaelsons so that the witches can basically take back New Orleans, which makes me think, it didn't come up. I saw a little something, like there was one moment he was looking in the mirror earlier in the episode. I ended up finding out that was him. That was probably most likely him looking at the camera. But to me, it looked like he was a little, like something was a little off. Which kind of made me think, like I said, that wasn't the case, but it kind of got me thinking, like, what if there's a fail-safe inside of this spell that he doesn't know about? That the ancestors at any time can, like, either reverse it or kill him because there's something they snuck into the spell that he doesn't know about. Because it's like, why would you let such a monster like that, go? Because it seemed like nothing can stop him. Like, granted, he's getting a little help from the ancestors, but it's like, would they even be really powerful enough to stop him? Because it doesn't seem like anything can kill him. And side note, Aurora did take the drug too, but she didn't. The spell, she did drink it, but she hasn't died, so she hasn't transitioned yet. That's why they're kind of avoiding killing her. They're trying to reverse what she's done to, like, reverse it from out of her system. They're trying to find a way to reverse it so that they can finally kill her and finally find a way to kill Lucian. But we had Vincent and Davina kind of dealing with that, and we also have the Cole situation. Essentially, there was that bar that keeps magic under wraps. So like once you step through, no magic can magic doesn't work there, and so it kept whatever magic they were using on him at bay. But sadly, that didn't work because they started tearing down the barrier. But Marcel kind of talks Cole into it. It's like, if he really cares about Davina, he has to do the right thing. He has to leave, and Cole did. Sat for a little while. He was literally out of his city limits, and it was working. He was secure, but then he starts decaying. And you know how vampires. I forgot what the term is. they kind of like their bodies kind of falsify when they die, particularly the originals. But it's like he ended up getting back, like running back into town and being affected by it again. So like, I don't know whether it's something the ancestors did to him, or, you know, is it just like something they specifically did, or is it because of the spell Davina cast? It ties him specifically to New Orleans. I feel like maybe it wasn't just that. It was probably like something they probably did, but like he can't leave town, so he can't stay, but he can't go either. Can't stay because there's no guarantee he won't hurt Davina. Can't leave because he'll die if he leaves. So. But sadly, the next episode won't be until April 29th, so we won't find out. Like I said, it ended with, you know, Cammy getting bitten by Lucian. So it's like, we won't see where everything leads until the 29th, so. Now moving on to this week's episode of Grimm, which a lot of interesting things went down in this episode. I will admit, I like how the fact is that Eve doesn't ever use her hands for anything. It's like she's getting into Nick's car at the beginning. She opens and closes the door with her powers. She's getting out of the elevator in their Adeline and Nick's place, and she opens the door, opens and closes the elevator door with her powers. It's like, I guess once you have those powers, it's like, what's the point of using your hands? And I love everyone's reaction to finding out that she slept with Rachel, and finding out she did it as Sean, and you're just like, and even Rosalie does this weird thing. She's like, I wonder how that felt, and she kind of looks down, like kind of like she's looking towards her legs. We also have because she essentially warned Nick about the whole Adeline situation, particularly Eve warned him, and then Adeline kind of told him the truth about Adeline, being like, yeah, she's already kind of reverted back into a hex and beast, but he decides not. They say it's basically best not to tell her, because if she finds out that Rosalie told him, then it's going to break the trust. I mean, grant, to be fair, she does, you know, have a right to fear, because it's like, honestly, what will Nick do? Because even he's not 100% sure what he's going to do, because her being a hex and beast is fine technically, but it's like, her turning back into a hex and beast means her becoming the person she was before, who in fact was not a nice person. So it's like, but Nick, you know, decides not to tell her. At one point it seemed like she might be telling him, but it's like, no, she's just telling him that she just got a new job. Well, not a new job, she's going back to her old job, and we actually see her for the first time full on Vogue into a hex and beast. And Kelly kind of smiles, so it's like, you know, he is half Grimm, so it's like, maybe he can see her in her Vogue state too, but it was saying like he didn't cry or anything; he was smiling. So it's like, oh, that's mommy's real face or something. I don't know. I thought that was very interesting. Like, maybe he really doesn't. Maybe it's because it makes you wonder, like, at what age does, you know, the Grimm blood kick in that you can see Vess, and maybe he can't see him, or maybe he can. I mean, just something to think about. This week's case dealt with a Vessin known as the Inugami. Essentially, it's like a guardian Vessin. It's kind of like a dog spirit that basically it protects a family that basically, once a family saves its life, it owes them kind of a debt. So it will try to honor the family and protect its honor and stuff like that. Essentially, there was this family whose son died. And basically what happened was, it was an accident. The kids were high, they were messing around. Essentially, they were messing around and the gun accidentally went off. And it scared this boy, and he ended up voguing, showing his real form. And his friends backed away, and one of them dropped a gun, and the gun accidentally went off and killed him. And so basically, this Unagami's trying to get revenge for the family. Justice, actually. He ended up killing one kid, and he was about to kill the other one, but, you know, the others kind of showed up. And it's always interesting when you see Nick fight and kind of handle his own against this guy. That was pretty cool. The father did in the end. The kid's like, I didn't, it was an accident. And the father, he's grieving, still grieving a little bit. He's like, I understand. I believe you, it was an accident. Because it sadly was. They were just scared. They were just being stupid teenagers, and an accident happened. Because, him and his wife kind of felt like they were cheated. Like, after everything that happened, because they truly believed it to be like it was on purpose. Like, they had malicious intent, that it wasn't an accident. Because through it all, they ended up only getting probation. They didn't even get any serious time. But at the same time, we also have Wu, like, whatever that wound is doing to him, it's really messing with him, because, like, he had that dream where he was running off in the woods, but it wasn't a dream. It's like, what is that situation going to be? Like, I'm trying to understand. Like, what is, like, I'm legitimately curious, like, is it just, like, instinct that he's acting upon, or is he, like, or is there, like, more to it? Like, I was thinking, like, is it just, like, the kind of like a animalistic instinct inside of his head, or is it going to like evolve into something? Like, I'm curious. I'm wondering, is he going to turn into something? Like, is it even possible for a normal person to turn into a Vesson? I don't know. And we also had Rosalie and Monroe investigating inside those tunnels. Which interestingly enough, we find a dead body in there. I really like how they were like, Rosalie's like, what if it's like there's water on the other side of it? And I was like, come on, like, Nick's been down here before. She's like, well, what if it's like high tide now? He's like, okay. He's like, whatever. He's cracking the door open. He's like, you might want to hold your breath. I thought that was I really like that. I also like how the fact is that they're like, those tunnels have to be something. Like, I don't know what it is. Yeah, I can't even fathom what it is, but that's going to lead to something. It's like they're putting too much emphasis on those tunnels for them just to be nothing. It's interesting because it seemed like it was just a random place that they chose for, Nick and Adeline to kind of, it was a place that Nick chose for him and Adeline to kind of shack up at. It seemed like a random place. It's like, but it seems like this place actually has some significance. There was even a dead body at the end of that particular like tunnel they ended up going down. There was even one like little tunnel in the wall that looks like you can crawl through. Don't know where that leads, but there was like a body down there. So it's like, who is that and what's that from? It's like there's a huge mystery behind that whole tunnel system. And it also involved, that whole situation also involved one of my favorite parts in the episode. Eve showed up and essentially is talking to Adam, and it's like, okay, I know you're a Hexen beast again. And Adeline's like, no, I'm not. She's like, you're lying. She's like, I understand you're scared, because you have a child now, so that kind of makes you weak. You feel vulnerable. She's essentially like, but let me tell you this. If something happens to Nick, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to kill you, essentially. And then, she left. And then Adeline kind of took a deep breath and rolled her eyes a little bit. And, we never cut back to them, but obviously Monroe and Eve kind of, heard that. Monroe and Rosalie heard that entire conversation. So, but it's like, which makes me wonder, which way is she saying that? Is she saying that as Juliet, because there's some of Juliet still in her that cares about Nick, or is she saying that from an operative, point of view, like, yeah, Nick's important to our plan, in this battle against Black Call. So if you end up killing him, that means I have to kill you because you're killing a valuable asset. I like to think it's because there's a little bit of Juliet inside of her. And if it is, I love it because it's going to complicate things so much, because already the whole her and Adeline thing. The whole Adeline and Nick thing. And it's just like, if Nick finds out there's even a little bit of Juliet still inside of there, I don't know. Because I don't know who I want, and it's so complicated, because it's like he's got a child with Adeline, but he had such a long relationship with Juliet, but it's obvious he's got feelings for Adeline, because Adeline's definitely got feelings for him. It's just like, I don't know. It's a weird, twisted love triangle, and I love it. And then at the very end of the episode, we see Sean reunited with Diana. Rachel had brought her to him because basically, as she said before, for him to run as mayor, he looks more appealing if he actually has a family. That'll make people more trusting of him. It's like him just being a single guy looks, it's kind of a ploy to get people to vote more for him. So, but, brought Diana to him, which is very sweet. Obviously, they're just using him and everything, but still. Because the moment I saw her, it's like, oh, his little, because like she had brought that up earlier. It's like, oh, you'll have a family. I'm like, is she saying that because like they're having sex and she's pregnant or something? I was like, no, because the whole point was to get Adeline, right? Which means that's what that's going to tie into, because Adeline's going to find out Diana's back, and she's like, and then Renard's going to want her to kind of be his quote unquote wife, and they have their daughter, so he wants them to be kind of a happy family. So that's probably going. There's so much happening, because it's like that's going to put a strain on Nick's relationship with Adeline, because Adeline's still holding back the fact that she's a Hexenby. She still hasn't told Nick. He's just waiting for her to tell him. But at the same time, he's still nervous about it, because he's like, Adeline's a good person now, but who, and he sees that she's still holding on to that person, but he's kind of a little nervous, like, at any point in time, like, that Hexenby cyber can slip out. She can kind of go back to who she was, so. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.